So hey anime fans. The series name is What If Naruto Got Harem with Sonic Hedgehog. So let's start the series. To stop Dr. Igor from destroying the Earth, Sonic and his companions were engaged in their greatest conflict to date. Despite Sonic the Hedgehog's best efforts to battle his two best friends, Tails and Knuckles, it appeared that Igor's brilliance had outstripped their skills this time. His new mechanical weapon could not be broken by any of them. Even his tremendous strength prevented Knuckles from breaking it. All of them started running at full speed in the hopes that they might reorganize and come up with a better plan. Even though they all ran nearly as fast as sound, Igor's new contraption was outpacing them, and he was rapidly gaining ground. Sonic grabbed Tails and Knuckles' arms and accelerated in the hopes that it would be sufficient to get away, but Igor managed to accelerate even farther and kept gaining ground. Sonic questioned, "How are we gonna beat this guy?" Knuckles argued, "If I can't break his robot, no one can." "I think we only have one chance if we're ever going to beat Igor," replied Tails. "What's that?" Knuckles inquired. "Sonic, do we still have the 7 Chaos Emeralds?" inquired Tails. Sonic replied, "Yeah, but you said not to use them in case we needed them." "Well, I think this is the best time to use them. It's obvious that we can't beat him with our natural abilities," said Tails. "Tails is right, it's our best chance at beating Igor," stated Knuckles. Sonic boasted, "Okay, let's take down Igor." They ignited the 7 Chaos Emeralds after realizing what they needed to do to defeat Igor. Sonic transformed into Super Sonic and gave Tails and Knuckles some power, which allowed them to levitate and increase their strength and speed, similar to Sonic Heroes. They increased their speed and began targeting Igor's equipment from all sides, but it was still ineffective. They would need to wrap things up fast because they all knew that super form wouldn't stay long. According to Tails, they would only have a chance of winning if they all drove as fast as they could and didn't stop. They charged at Igor's machine at full speed because it was their only chance, and collided. They were pushing the machine back with their tremendous might, but they didn't break through it first. They began by creating a tiny hole in the machine, and when they had enough strength, they fired through it entirely, causing it to explode as they were taking off. They couldn't slow down because they had never traveled so fast before. They continued to accelerate until they finally broke through the barrier of light, created a hole in space and time, and left their world behind. The group of closest friends woke up in a forest they had never seen before. Tails had a sense that they were no longer in their own world, but they had no idea where they were. Knuckles questioned, "Does anyone have an idea of where we are?" "No, but I have a feeling we aren't in our universe anymore," said Tails. "But oh come on, that's impossible," Sonic said. "I wouldn't say that, I predict that we were going so fast that we broke a hole in time and went to a whole other world," said Tails. "I think that's accurate. I don't recognize this place and we've been able to travel around the whole world," Knuckles replied. "Well, we better not stay around for too long. Do you know how we can get back, Tails?" replied Sonic. Knuckles responded, "The same way we got here, we're going to have to go super again and go so fast that we break the barrier again, despite not having been asked. Unfortunately, it's not that simple, guys. There's possibly an infinite number of universes, so making it back to our own is going to be hard to do," stated Tails. Sonic questioned, "So we're stuck here forever?" "Not forever. I predict that if we get moving quickly, we can go the same way back and go back to our own world," replied Tails. "How do you mean?" Sonic inquired. "I'm sure the hole we created, though time and space is still open, so getting home is just a matter of getting the speed up and going back," stated Tails. When Knuckles said, "That means we're gonna need the Chaos Emeralds to get back." "That's right, do we still have the emeralds, Sonic?" replied Tails. Sonic answered, "Yeah, I still have them all," and he took out the emeralds. "But I think we're gonna have to wait a while because they're a little drained from our fight against Igor." "Well, let's see if there's any other inhabitants within this world," Tails replied. In order to determine whether the area was inhabited, Tails soared over the trees. Beneath the leaves, he spotted what appeared to be a village. Returning to the ground, he informed Sonic and Knuckles of his observations. In order to find out if someone could assist them, they made the decision to go towards the settlement. In the meantime, in an office in the settlement Tails had noticed, the village chief was ordering a reconstituted team to go witness the strange event that had just occurred outside the village. The newly reconstituted Team 7 of Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke stood in front of the blonde woman behind the desk, who went by the name Tsunade. As Sakura put it, "So what's the emergency, Lady Tsunade? I've gotten a report that there was a huge explosion that took place outside the village, and I need you three to see what it is," stated Tsunade. "According to Naruto, that doesn't sound too hard. That's why I'm asking you three to take care of it, since it is your first mission as a reform team," replied Tsunade. Sasuke questioned, "So you still don't trust me?" "That's right, but understand, Sasuke, if you do this mission and succeed, your probation will be shortened," replied Tsunade. "It's okay, I understand, but I'll do this to prove my devotion to the village," said Sasuke. Sakura questioned, "What if it comes to a fight?" "Then take them out," Tsunade replied. "You got it, we'll try our hardest," Naruto said. After that, Team 7 went to investigate the explosion site, and Team Sonic continued to walk in the hopes of finding someone who could assist them. Within a few minutes, Team Sonic moved in the direction of some people they saw approaching them, and Team 7 noticed a strange group appear in front of them. At first, they assumed they were just forest animals, but they knew they weren't because they were wearing shoes and had strange colors. Team 7 suspected that these strange animals were the result of the explosion because they were the strangest things they had ever seen, so they asked these humans if they could help them with their situation. "Pardon us, is there anything you might do to assist us?" Sonic inquired. Naruto said, "First we want to ask you something," not believing these strange beings he had just encountered. "What is that?" Knuckles inquired. "Did you survive that strange explosion?" Sakura asked gravely. "Well, yes, that was us, and that's why we want to ask you something," said Tails. "Do you intend to invade the Leaf Village?" angrily, Naruto asked. "What the hell?" Sonic inquired. "Are you invading the village of Leaf?" Sasuke repeated what Naruto had asked. "Hey, can you help us? We don't know where we are," Tails inquired. "I think you're all just putting on an innocent act, so we won't attack you. Nothing that comes from an explosion like that can be good," Sakura replied. "Look, we don't want to fight anyone, we just want to go home, okay?" said Sonic. "Either that or you're spies who we have to stop, and believe me, a war just ended, so we're ready for a fight," said Naruto. "Like I said, we don't want to fight, and believe me, you don't want to fight us," remarked Knuckles. "You think you're so tough? We're not afraid of small brightly colored animals," said Sasuke. "Look, we only need some assistance, therefore we're going to the village," Tails clarified. Sakura said, "At the rate you're going, you'll be fighting." "Look, we're not the guys you want to fight, but if you want one, that's okay with us," Sonic clarified. "Oh sure, some weird-looking weasels will beat us in a fight," replied Naruto. "I'm a hedgehog," Sonic declared. "I'm a fox," Tails declared. "I'm an echidna," Knuckles declared. "Whatever, just leave our village," Sakura commanded. "And like we said, we just want to ask for some help," Sonic replied. "Since they don't appear to be going, should we attack?" Naruto inquired. "Let's attack," Sasuke said. Team 7 then launched an attack on Sonic, who, because of Sonic's speed, was able to leap out of their way and land behind them with ease. Knuckles remarked, "Look like a fight's inventable." "Are you guys game?" Sonic inquired. "Of course," Tails responded. "We're with you until the end," Knuckles remarked. They didn't know if these strange creatures were malevolent, but they weren't going to take any chances given the evil they had just encountered, so Naruto decided to be a little clever about it. Team 7 stood in awe, wondering if the strange-looking animals they had just attacked really moved that fast. "These small weasels believe you're really tough," then Naruto asked. Sonic cautioned, "You don't want to mess with us," as Knuckles stated. "But do the three of you believe you are?" Sakura inquired. "I'm Sonic the Hedgehog," Sonic replied. The answer was Knuckles the Echidna, Knuckles said. Tails replied, "My friends call me Tails, but my name is Miles Prower." "At any rate, why do you think we're invaders? Where we come from, we're heroes," Sonic replied. "Like we believe that creatures as weird-looking as you are have to be evil," said Naruto. "Then you'd better give up, we're the strongest team in the whole Leaf Village," said Sasuke. "So it won't bother you if we go the next step?" Knuckles inquired. Sakura jeered, "Go ahead, let's see what you've got." While Team 7 prepared to intercept the attack, Team Sonic took their positions ready to attack. Team 7 believed they could easily block Team Sonic's attack because they were about half as big as Team 7, so they thought it would be an easy win. However, Team Sonic vanished, and Team 7 stood in shock, searching for them, but failing to find them. Sasuke activated his Sharingan in the hopes of spotting their hiding place when he noticed that they were approaching from behind at extremely high speeds. "Eyes jump," Sasuke shouted. "Why?" Sakura inquired. Sasuke remarked, "Because they're right behind us." But it was too late. Team Sonic collided with Team 7, sending them all flying forward with their spin attack, like in most old Sonic games. Team 7 got up after being knocked down and looked at their opponents. None of them had ever seen anyone move so quickly, and none of them had been able to see Team Sonic move. It seemed as though these three strange-looking animals could all move at speeds that were beyond the reach of most humans. They all wondered how that was possible, and since they only knew that their opponents wouldn't be as simple to defeat as they had initially believed, they decided to ask Team Sonic how they managed to do it. Sakura said, "How did you guys do that? No one can run that fast." "Since I'm the fastest thing on the planet and can sprint faster than sound, I suppose I should have told you where I'm from," Sonic clarified. "So, the only person we should be concerned about is you?" Naruto inquired. "I don't think so. Knuckles and I can both move quickly enough to keep up with Sonic, even though he may be faster than us," Tails clarified. "I may not be as quick as these two, but I'm far stronger than them in terms of strength," and Knuckles clarified. "But our true weapon is the ultimate superpower of teamwork," said Sonic. "Let's go, guys." "Right," Knuckles and Tails stated together. Team Sonic suddenly charged at Team 7, who jumped in time, making Team Sonic miss them. However, Team Sonic had prepared for this, so Sonic leaped and used his super fast speed to create a tornado, and Tails and Knuckles then attacked Team 7 with the triple tornado attack from Sonic Chronicles: The Dark Brotherhood, knocking them to the ground once more. Team 7 knew they couldn't give up because it was their responsibility to protect their village with all of their strength, but they also realized that they wouldn't be able to defeat Team Sonic as easily as they had initially believed. Team 7 began talking about how Team Sonic's greatest strength at the moment was probably teamwork, which was far stronger than their own, which meant that if they were going to have any chance of defeating them, they would have to split up and fight them separately. Team 7 was at a loss for ideas and realized that the best course of action was to regroup and try to figure out who should fight whom from Team Sonic. Knowing what they had to do, they used substitution the next time they were attacked, making Team Sonic believe they had turned into logs. Tails suspected it was a ruse, and that Team 7 was withdrawing until they could come up with a better plan. When Sonic and Knuckles asked Tails what they should do next, Tails suggested that they continue to move in the direction of the village and find someone less insane who could assist them. However, Team 7 was unaware that this wasn't Team Sonic's actual plan, because they began searching for Team 7 as soon as they felt they were out of earshot. While Team 7 was feeling secure, they began formulating a strategy that they hoped would help them win the battle against these new foes. Little did they know that Team Sonic had already spotted them, as Tails had flown over the trees and spotted them close by. Team Sonic moved slowly toward Team 7 to make sure no one heard or saw them coming, but in reality, they were just trying to see if Team 7 was smart enough to see them coming. Meanwhile, Team 7 was sitting on the ground, discussing how they could make the battle more in their favor, since they all knew that the only way they would even have a chance of winning would be to fight separately, since they all knew that Team Sonic's strength and teamwork was greater than their own. We are aware that fighting alone is the only way we can prevail. From what we've already seen, we may be able to decide who should battle whom, Sakura clarified. What have we observed? They move too fast. The only thing we know is that they can move at supersonic speeds and have great teamwork, said Naruto. I was able to learn a bit more about them, though. They moved a bit more slowly when I used my Sharingan, so I could see a little piece of their strategy, Sasuke clarified. What did you manage to see? Sakura inquired. They can all move at incredibly high rates, as you are all aware, yet I could still perceive a discernible difference in speed between the three, Sasuke clarified. Did you witness the speed of the order? Naruto inquired. Indeed, I could tell that the blue person is by far the fastest. Even if the other two are slower, they are still able to keep up with him. The creature with two tails that resembles Yellow Fox is the next quickest, but I believe he can only travel so quickly by using his tails to propel himself forward, Sasuke clarified. What are you saying? Sakura inquired. The fox was using his tails to propel himself ahead while the other two were running, so if we do something to stop him from doing so, he might only be as fast as the average person, Sasuke clarified. How about the man in red? Naruto inquired. It would be better to stay away from his punches as much as possible, because, although he was only keeping up with the other two, I could see he had a lot more strength than the others, Sasuke clarified. We've determined their speed, but are you able to observe any more aspects of their strategy? Sakura inquired. Well, I could tell that the Hedgehog was the team leader, but I believe the fox may be the most astute of them all. I was able to make this conclusion because, based on the glimpses I got with my Sharingan, the fox seemed to be in charge of all the attack plans, Sasuke clarified. So the fox is the one we should be most concerned about? Sakura inquired. No, they are all equally dangerous. It seems like each of them contributes significantly to a strategy. The red beast is the power factor, the blue hedgehog is the speed factor, and the yellow fox, in my opinion, is the brains, Sasuke went on. Returning to the initial query, who will engage in combat in order to tip the scales in our favor? Naruto inquired. Team 7 was to caught up in their strategy to win that they didn't even notice Team Sonic aside from them, so Team Sonic chose to wait until the right time before entering the conversation. By this point, Team Sonic had managed to approach Team 7 slowly, and were standing directly next to them. Well, in terms of who should fight who, I think it should be Sakura against the yellow fox, me against the red. What did he say? He was an echidna, and Naruto against the blue hedgehog, said Sasuke. What makes it the best course of action, in your opinion? Sakura inquired. As I mentioned earlier, I think the fox is the smartest of the group, so you might be the only one who can equal his brains, so Sakura, I think you should fight him. Even though I only saw snippets of the battle plan, he seemed to be the least talented fighter, therefore I believe it's better for Sakura to take on the fox. I also believe he's less skilled than the other two, Sasuke clarified. Okay, I won't let you guys down, Sakura claimed. I think I should fight the red echidna because he appears to be the strongest and most skilled in fighting, said Sasuke. But hold on, Sasuke, shouldn't I be the one to take on their team's top fighter, since I'm the strongest member of our squad, and even you can't dispute that? Naruto inquired. It may be true, Naruto, but I believe it would be better for you to fight the blue hedgehog, because you are the fastest member of our team, and he was the fastest on theirs. This means that you may be the only member of our team who can compete with him. I should fight the red echidna because he was much slower than the other two, but I should fight the echidna because I am a stronger fighter than Sakura, Sasuke clarified. That makes sense. Now the only problem is separating them, said Sakura. Yeah, that's going to be the real problem. We might have to improvise on that, Sasuke replied. Sonic interrupted the talk to inform Team 7 that they had been listening to the idea for a little while. It's true, it will be hard to separate the team, but other than that it's a brilliant plan, Sonic added. I agree, and I have to say that probably is the ideal way to fight, if we are to fight each opponent separately, said Knuckles. I'm wondering though, is it really possible to separate 3 people who are such a strong team, and have the superpower of teamwork, Tails said. There's a bigger problem, is it really possible to separate 3 such spectacular fighters, said Sonic. Birdo said, yeah, that is gonna be a big problem, without realizing Team Sonic was present. Team 7 jumped to their feet as they realized that Team Sonic was already there, and might actually know important details in the strategy to defeat them in this battle. They realized that even though Team Sonic knew important details about Team 7's strategy, they would still need to improvise if they wanted to be able to fight them separately, and have a chance of winning. How much time have all 3 of you been here? Sakura inquired. Sonic grinned and replied, long enough to know that you plan to fight us separately in the hope of winning. But trust me when I say this, that we're not going to give you the chance to get the upper hand on us, no matter how we fight, said Tails. Sakura boasted, we'll beat you no matter what it takes. Unfortunately for you 3, since we are strongest as a team, we will continue to battle as such, and Knuckles clarified. Well, I have only one more thing to say about all this, Birdo remarked, preparing to implement the best strategy he could think of. What is that? Sonic inquired. This multi-shadow clone spirit art, Naruto screamed, triggering his signature technique and producing numerous clones of himself, shocking Team Sonic as a whole. Startled, Sonic questioned, what, did he just make copies of himself? How many people are there? Knuckles inquired. Sakura and Sasuke were aware of Naruto's plan and separated Tails and Knuckles from Sonic, who were taken aback by the sheer number of Narutos that had appeared. Despite their confusion, Naruto decided to order them to leave, assuming that they were already aware of the plan. Sakura, Sasuke now, Naruto screamed. Suddenly Sakura and Sasuke charged at their opponents, with Sakura attacking Tails and Sasuke attacking Knuckles. Sonic tried to prevent Sakura and Sasuke from separating him from his friends. It would have been an easy task for him thanks to his great speed, but before he could take off he was held down by many of Naruto's clones, preventing him from helping his friends. Sakura and Sasuke succeeded in their attack, and both Tails and Knuckles were quickly separated from Sonic and one another. This left Sonic alone with Naruto, while leaving Tails to fight Sakura and Knuckles to fight Sasuke. Sonic had a feeling that even though all of Team Sonic could run at super fast speeds, none of them would be able to help one another, because Sonic knew that the people they were fighting would do everything in their power to prevent them from getting the upper hand and working as a team. Sonic knew that they would all have to fight their battles on their own. He also knew that he wasn't going to let this blonde guy face before him to stop him, as he knew that no one in the world can outrun him. Sakura and Tails together. Sakura tried to push Tails as far back as she could, to keep him as far away from his team as she could, in hopes that he wouldn't be able to regroup with Sonic and Knuckles. Sakura kept throwing punches at Tails trying to hit him, but was having no luck in landing a punch. Tails was much too quick for Sakura, and was easily dodging every attack she made. This made her understand that she would need to make her best plan ever, if she had any hope at winning against Tails. Tails on the other hand was already planning to make a counterattack. For the start of the fight he thought that Sakura would just get tired, but she'd been throwing punches at Tails for quite a considerable amount of time, and she didn't appear to be tearing out. Even with his superior intelligence, Tails was finding it hard to conduct a plan with the continuous throwing of punches towards him. It was then that Tails came up with a solution. It was easily clear to himself and Sakura that his speed was far superior to hers. This told Tails that it would be best to make her think he's making a run for it, which he hoped would make her chase, and then he'd attack her with his powerful tails. When Sakura threw another punch, Tails leaped as high as he could and landed behind her, spinning his tails in the hopes that it would fool Sakura into pursuing him. Sakura turned to where Tails had leaped, but instead of pursuing him as Sasuke had intended, she tried to grab his tails to stop him from traveling at his supersonic speed. As planned, she was able to grab one of the 2 tails, but was struck by the other one at the supersonic motion that allowed Tails to use them like an engine turbine. Sakura felt the force and speed of the tails collided with her arms, breaking both of her arms in the process. Sakura jumped back in pain, not expecting the tails to have such an impact, but then it hit her that since he had used them to travel at the speed of sound, his tails would actually have a great deal of strength within them. She had no idea how strong the fox's tails were, but she knew that the only way she could stop them would be to grab both of them. She would need to heal her arms as soon as possible, and then she would have to think of a way to divert Tails long enough for her to grab his greatest weapon, the tails. However, she first wondered if she could fool him into revealing the strength of his tails by appearing surprised. Sakura yelled, "What the hell is up with your tails? My arms are broken. Did you think my tails are weak or something? The fact that I spin them around to boost my speed to nearly the speed of sound means that they've built a great deal of muscle," said Tails. "How powerful are they?" asked Sakura in an attempt to elicit the knowledge she required from Tails. "They're strong enough to bust metal," Tails said. It was all Sakura needed to hear. Now that she knew how powerful his tails were, she would be able to figure out a way to restrain them, but first she would have to concentrate on healing her arms, which would be challenging because both of them were broken, but she would be able to heal one arm, and then the other arm with ease, because of her great core energy control. Although it hurt a lot, she began to move one arm toward the other to begin healing it, and in the process she decided to tell Tails that it was a huge mistake to tell her that his tails were his greatest weapon. You shouldn't have told me how strong your tails are, because by doing that you've made this battle much easier for me, said Sakura. Why is that? Tails inquired. Because now that I am aware of the tail's strength, I can devise a strategy to outdo them. They appear to be your only weapon in combat, and I can tell that they are also your greatest weapon, Sakura clarified. You've underestimated me once more if you believe that those are my sole weapons. I haven't even started to demonstrate my abilities to you. Although I lack Sonic and Knuckles' fighting prowess, Tails said, I always have a fighting device up my sleeve because of my superior intelligence. When Sakura said, I'll believe that when I see it. Do you really think you should continue? I mean, sure, you could have won earlier, but how are you gonna fight me now? Your arms are broken, said Tails. Sakura replied, that wouldn't be a problem much longer, as she eventually extended one arm with the other. What are you saying? Tails inquired. Oh, you'll see, Sakura clarified. Sakura began to heal her arms, and a green light appeared to show that her arms were healing. Tails didn't know what to make of this weird green light that Sakura had created with her left arm and was placing on her right. He was wondering what it did. Was she making herself stronger? Was she healing her arms? But that's impossible, thought Tails. He was only able to heal wounds like that through the use of machinery. There was no way that she could be repairing her arms with her bare hands. He decided it would be better to wait and see the results of what Sakura was doing. After a few minutes, the light green glow coming from Sakura's left hand stopped and she took her hand away from her right arm. She then moved her right arm as if it was fully healed. It was then that Tails realized that she had in fact used her left hand to heal her right arm. That wasn't possible, Tails thought to himself. In his world only he had been able to figure out a way to heal wounds that quickly, and that was through the use of a medic bot. Ah, that's much better, Sakura murmured, flexing her right arm as though it hadn't been broken just moments earlier. Tails said, how did you do that? No one can heal that fast. Well, for me, it was simple. Sakura declared, I'm among the village's top medical ninjas. However, is the strange light you were applying to your arm what caused your wounds to heal? Tails inquired. Yes, it was. In order to assist me heal my wounds, I used my core energy in the strange light you mentioned, Sakura clarified. What does core energy mean? Tails inquired. Core energy is what gives us our not physical abilities. Didn't any of you three weasels wonder how we did that substitution trick? Sakura sighed. It struck Tails that she must have used the same kind of power to heal her arm, but in a medical sense. The only thing in their world that had abilities even close to that level were the Chaos Emeralds. It was impossible. No one had those kinds of abilities on their own. Tails somehow knew that it would take all of his speed and genius to win this fight, so he decided that now was the best time to attack, as she still needed to heal one of her arms. Tails recalled the last time he, Knuckles, and Sonic had fought together, and how they had all vanished in puffs of smoke and turned into logs. He thought that he'd hit Sakura dead on, but then there was a puff of smoke, and another log appeared, which told him that she had just used another substitution technique on him. Tails knew that he would have to find her quickly, as she was probably healing her other arm at that very moment. Tails knew that the quickest and best way of finding Sakura would be to fly above the trees and look for her from the sky. A small distance away, Sakura was working on healing her arm. She knew she would have to work quick, as Tails was probably looking for her at that very moment. Thankfully she was able to heal this arm quicker than the other one, and was close to being done already. On Tails' end, flying above the trees had quickly let him spot Sakura, and he started charging towards her location. Sakura looked behind where she was sitting and saw Tails charging at her. She quickly jumped out of the way, letting Tails hit the ground. Looking at the state of her arm, Tails could tell that it had already been healed, and she was back to full strength. Sakura remarked, now the fight really begins. Tails pulled out his energy ball arm cannon to make Sakura's fight more difficult. Alright, if that's how you want it, serious I'll get, he said. With this strange device that he had just placed on his arm, Sakura had no idea what Tails was going to do when he suddenly aimed his cannon at her, preparing to fire. You should probably know that this is going to hurt if you don't move, cautioned Tails. What is that stupid looking thing? Are you going to shot and attack at me? Laughed Sakura. Tails remarked, that's right, you're smarter than you look. Oh well, take your best shot, Sakura cynically remarked. Sakura was upset that she was making fun of his invention, so he complied with her request, and to her utter surprise, a huge ball of energy shot from the cannon. Fortunately, Sakura was fast enough to dodge the attack, because she didn't like the way the energy ball looked coming from Tails' arm, and knew it was wise to avoid any more attacks. She was too preoccupied with the first attack to notice that Tails had launched another one at her, and when the ball of energy collided with her and landed on the ground, she knew she would have to be more cautious going forward, because she now knew he had devices that aided him in battle. So, you have more tricks up your sleeve than I thought, Sakura replied. I'm sure you know by now, I'm the smart one of the team, said Tails. Yeah, and I'm the smart one of my team, Sakura replied. Tails remarked, so, that's why I'm the one fighting you. That's right, and you showed me one of your tricks, now it's time I show you one of mine, Sakura replied. Sakura leaped to try to attack Tails, but Tails had anticipated this and fired another energy ball at her. Fortunately, Sakura understood that Tails would attempt another energy ball attack, so she performed another substitution, leaving Tails unsure of her whereabouts. Where'd she go? Tails shouted. Right here, Sakura shouted. Tails turned and saw that Sakura was charging fist first towards him from the sky. Tails knew he didn't have time to counter, so he jumped as far away as he could. Thankfully Sakura missed Tails and hit the ground, but then the ground started to crumble around them. Tails lost his footing for a bit, but quickly found it again. After seeing the force of Sakura's punch, he knew that he would die if she managed to punch him. Tails knew this was another core energy ability, and he would have to be even more careful and smart if he was to survive. Tails quickly got back to what he was doing, as Sakura jumped towards him and started throwing more punches. Thanks to Tails' speed he was able to dodge her punches, but he would have to be more careful now that he knew of her strength. Tails had a feeling she wasn't going to tire out soon, so he would have to do more than dodge. He felt he would have to get an advantage by getting more mobility, so once he was far enough away he started spinning his tails like a helicopter and took off into the air. Sakura was shocked to see Tails in the air, using his tails to generate lift and fly like a helicopter. She wondered how the little yellow fox she was battling could have done so. Sakura yelled from the ground, "Hey, that's impossible, you shouldn't be able to fly like that, and if you use your tails like that, they should get tangled." Tails said from the air, "So, says the girl who used magic to heal her arm, who says I can't fly." Well, it contradicts logic to spin your tails in that manner. They ought to become tangled and incapable of producing lift, Sakura clarified. Tails remarked, "Well, I'm a genius and I say it's possible." "How intelligent do you believe you are?" Sakura inquired. "Well, I think my IQ is about 300, Tails said. As Sakura pondered, 300, that's impossible, thought Sakura. Even though she could tell that the fox was smart, she was smart too, and she could tell that Tails was putting a lot more strain on his body while he was flying, so she knew he would only be able to stay up in the air for a short while. Sakura began to wonder if the fox was just bluffing to catch her off guard, because no one she knew had an IQ even close to 300. Not even her friend Shikamaru had an IQ that high, and he was the smartest person she knew. "Well, no matter how smart you say you are, you can't stay up there forever," said Sakura. Fortunately for Tails, he still had the advantage because, unbeknownst to Sakura, he always carried a huge supply of bombs. Tails knew she was correct. He was already beginning to feel exhausted after only 2 minutes in the air. "I'm sorry to say, but I'm ending this right now," Tails replied. "Oh, I see. How are you going to accomplish that?" Sakura inquired. "Like this," Tails remarked. Tails got his bomb supply out and started dropping many bombs down near Sakura onto the ground. Sakura had no idea what Tails was dropping at first, but once the first one hit the ground, she could see that it was a bomb, and she decided to wait until all of the bombs dropped, then jump before they exploded, hoping she'd be able to jump high enough. Once all the bombs were on the ground, she jumped as high as she could, and not a second too soon, as the bombs exploded beneath her. Sakura thought she was out of harm's way, but just then Tails stopped flying, fell towards her and hit her with the great strength of his tails. Luckily Sakura had blocked the attack with her arms, but was now plummeting towards the ground, with Tails following her ready to attack again. Tails attempted another attack with his tails, but Sakura was prepared for his attack this time, and when he came to hit her with his tails, she hit him with one of her super powerful punches. Tails felt his valued tails break from the amount of power that it collided with them. The only issue now was whether he would be able to get the chance to heal his injuries while Sakura was attacking him. Tails hoped that Sakura would be hot-headed enough to be distracted until he finished healing his injuries. Tails hit the ground hard, but fortunately had no other injuries other than his broken tails. He knew he wouldn't be able to win unless he healed his tails quickly. Fortunately, he had purchased his medical bot in case he had suffered injuries this bad. "It's over, Fox. I know that your tails got broken from that attack," said Sakura. "True, my tails are badly damaged, but I'm not finished yet," Tails replied. "Well, what else are you capable of?" Sakura inquired. "This," said Tails as he raised his meaty bot over his head and turned it on to begin bandaging his injuries. "Is that strange device meant to aim laser beams at me?" Sakura inquired. "Maybe it does and maybe it doesn't," Tails replied, procrastinating as long as possible to allow his tails to recover completely. Sakura mockingly said, "Well, if it's so powerful, why don't you attack me?" Believing she had already won because her opponent's most usable weapons were now damaged, but she was unaware that his tails were healing as they were conversing. Through his teeth, Tails lied and said, "Because it takes a while to charge up, in order to prolong the period of time that his tails took to mend." Sakura said, "Well then, I'll just destroy it, before you can attack," as she charged. I wouldn't do that if I were you, Tails replied, continuing to procrastinate because his wounds weren't completely healed. Why is that confused? Sakura asked. Because, if you destroy this machine, it'll explode and kill both you and me, Tails said, his voice uncertain. I find that hard to believe, as you stuttered during that last sentence, said Sakura. Well, either way, it's too late for you to do anything about it, said Tails. Why is that? Sakura inquired. Because I've fully recovered from my injuries during the time we've been speaking, and this machine is truly a medical bot as if they had never been broken. Tails moved his tails and removed his meaty bot from his head to explain. Sakura couldn't believe her eyes. She knew that she wouldn't get another chance like that, so if this fight was going to end, it was now or never. Tails had been able to heal his wounds just as quickly as she had, but he took advantage of machinery, rather than medical technique. Sakura couldn't believe she had just lost her best chance at winning, and she now knew that he was simply stalling for his injuries to heal, and she had been too foolish to realize it. Tails remarked, okay, let's go, preparing to engage in combat once more. Sure, but I warn you this ends now, Sakura said. And how exactly do you intend to terminate it right now? Tails inquired. Like this, Sakura remarked, hurling a flash bomb close to Tails. Sakura had a feeling that the battle was hers, so she grabbed hold of the fox's most powerful weapon, his tails, and when he felt someone had grabbed his tails, he looked behind himself and saw that Sakura had a firm grip on both of them. Tails was instantly blinded by the sudden light that had just been forced upon his eyes. He couldn't see anything, and even though the light had stopped, it took him some time to get his eyes used to the normal light again. This fight is mine, I know you're nothing without these things, as soon as I break them again you're done for, said Sakura. Do you really believe that without my tails, I'm so defenseless? Tails inquired. Of course it's obvious to everyone that they're your greatest weapon, said Sakura. Well, that might be true, I'm not completely useless without my tails, said Tails. Okay, what else are you capable of? Did Sakura still think she had won? Are you interested in seeing Tails tap his right toes on the ground in preparation for a run as quickly as possible? Sakura replied, sure, do your best if you can. Tails finished tapping his toes and remarked, okay, if that's what you want, before preparing to run. Sakura couldn't believe how fast Tails was running. She thought he would be completely slow without using his tails, but he was running so fast that she was having trouble hanging on, so she asked to see if she could find out how he was still going that fast. Suddenly, Tails started running as fast as he could, reaching his top running speed of 100 miles per hour very quickly. Sasuke informed me that your tails were the main component of your speed, so how are you moving so quickly? Sakura yelled. Yes, I can run at 100 miles per hour without using my tails, so even though I need to use them to fly and keep up with Sonic's pace, I can still run at extremely high rates, Tails shouted in response. Sakura continued to hold on as Tails ran, saying, well, whatever, no matter how fast you run, I won't let go until you tire out. I don't think so, Pink Girl, I'm ending this right now, Tails replied. Tails twisted his body and threw his tails in front of him, causing Sakura to lose her hold on him and start flying forward. Since Sakura was only thrown at 100 miles per hour, Tails was able to catch up to her quickly, and he knew that this was the best time to end the fight. He attacked Sakura with his tails once more, hitting her hard through the air. He chased and attacked again until he believed Sakura had taken all the damage she could, but not before he threw her to the ground, causing her to crash with a thud. Tails flew down to Sakura to ensure she was defiantly defeated. He broke a number of bones in Sakura's body, so he knew she wouldn't be leaving anytime soon. He checked to see if she was still alive, and when he put 2 fingers on her neck, he saw that she was unconscious and hurt, but he knew that he had won. He also knew that he had better go and help his friends, because he felt that Knuckles and Sonic had been fighting equally tough opponents during the time he had been fighting Sakura, so he could offer them assistance and allow them to return home. Sasuke tried his best to push Knuckles backwards, but Knuckles' strength made it easy for him to regain his footing, shortly after Sasuke had separated him from the 2 teams. Knuckles was tired of the pathetic punches and sword strikes that Sasuke was throwing at him, and he knew he needed to be quick if he was going to be able to end this and go help his friends with their opponents, so he blocked another of Sasuke's pathetic punches, then attacked with one of his powerful punches, striking Sasuke as hard as he could in the stomach. Knuckles believed he had already won and the fight was his, but there was a puff of smoke because Sasuke had used substitution spirit art. Knuckles shouted, "Where'd he go?" as he searched the area for his opponent. Right here, Sasuke declared as he charged at Knuckles, brandishing his sword. Knuckles felt he had no time to block the attack, so he used his speed to jump out of the way, and he landed on the ground without attacking his opponent. Sasuke had avoided using the Sharingan until now, to see if he could win this fight without it, but now he knew that he would need it to counter Knuckles' strength and speed. Sasuke activated his Sharingan just as Knuckles had launched his next attack, dodged the attack, then grabbed Knuckles' wrist, and threw him in a different direction. Although it wouldn't have hurt Knuckles, he used his gliding technique to slow down, so that his landing had not been affected. Sasuke was still holding back his strength, even though it was clear he would need to be serious for this fight. He decided it would be better to observe Knuckles' abilities before going all out. That way he felt that he would have the best chance of winning once he went all out. The fight continued between them with Sasuke keeping his distance the best he could and observing Knuckles' fighting style. Sasuke was able to see that both Knuckles' speed and strength were far superior to his own, but upon observing Knuckles' way of fighting, he could tell that he was the superior fighter. Sasuke knew he could win this fight, as long as he kept his Sharingan active and intercepted Knuckles' moves. That way he knew he could win the fight, as long as he dodged Knuckles' punches and attacked at the right moment. He could also tell that Knuckles would be the first one to attack, as it was clear to Sasuke that Knuckles was trying to end this fight as quickly as he could, so he could go and help his friends. Almost immediately after Sasuke had evaded one of Knuckles' attacks, he started to charge at him, ready to attack again, and when Knuckles charged and threw another punch, he dodged, grabbed Knuckles' wrist, and successfully counterattacked by delivering a punch to Knuckles' stomach. Sasuke thought that Knuckles would have been hurt, but after he was hit, he shot his head up with a furious expression on his face, realizing that he had simply been very careless, because given Knuckles' great upper body strength, physical attacks were likely to have no effect on him. Knuckles was amused by his opponent's failed attempt to injure him, so he chose to make fun of him. Is it your hardest blow knowing that he was capable of punching far more forcefully than Sasuke had just demonstrated? Knuckles requested with a smile on his face. Perhaps it is, perhaps it isn't. What does it mean to you? Sasuke replied, attempting to maintain his composure in the face of the circumstance. Knuckles remarked, that's not a punch, this is a punch, as he raised his fist in preparation for another blow. Since he could tell that no matter how many punches he threw, they would have no effect on Knuckles, Sasuke thought that using Taesprit art would be useless in this fight, and that he would have to rely on Insprit art and Gensprit art if he even had a chance of winning. Sasuke quickly let go of Knuckles' arm, which he still held, and quickly moved out of the way of Knuckles' punch, which went to the ground instead. Sasuke said, "You're stronger than I thought," in an attempt to briefly stop Knuckles from moving forward. Knuckles grinned and replied, "What did you expect, that I was going to be a pitiful weakling? Yes, I can see that you are the strongest member of your group just by looking at you and your pals, but I can also see that you are the slowest and least effective thinker," Sasuke clarified, pointing out Knuckles' shortcomings. Knuckles, who was still more confident about the battle, said, "I'm still much faster than you, that should be obvious to everyone." "Perhaps, but losing this battle will be due to your team's poorest strategist," Sasuke clarified, aware that he should have no trouble taking the initiative. "How did that happen?" Assuming Sasuke had run out of tricks, Knuckles inquired in confusion. "I might not be able to defeat you with only my physical power, but fortunately, I have more skills than that, and I'm going to show you what I'm capable of," Sasuke clarified, prepared to take things more seriously. Knuckles said, "Bring it on, I haven't even begun to show you what I can do," as he readied himself for Sasuke's next move. Sasuke decided to just demonstrate his next ability because he saw no point in explaining how he was going to get the upper hand. Then, without warning, Sasuke leaped into the air and began performing the hand seals for his family's signature spear dart. Knuckles was unable to understand what Sasuke was doing, so he was waiting for him to make his next move. Sasuke completed his hand seals and was ready to launch his next attack. Sasuke mentally said, "Fire style, fireball spirit art," and then a large ball of fire exploded from his mouth, heading straight for Knuckles. Knuckles was more than just shocked by what had just happened. He couldn't understand how Sasuke had just managed to shoot a huge ball of fire out of his mouth, and he knew it wasn't a trick because he could feel the heat coming from the fireball. Knuckles knew that he wouldn't have the chance to find out how Sasuke did that, because he was preparing the same attack right after he did the first one, and he felt that his only chance would be to attack Sasuke before he had another chance to use his fireball technique. Therefore, as soon as Sasuke fired his second fireball, Knuckles charged at full speed before Sasuke had even started his hand seals. Sasuke executed a third attack and launched another fireball at Knuckles, who used his speed to dodge the third fireball attack and leaped towards him with his fist in front of him. If Knuckles had been successful in landing his attack, Sasuke would have been dead meat, but Knuckles was caught in his trap just as he had planned, knowing that if he continued firing fireballs at Knuckles, he would eventually try to stop him before he could fire another. This was more than enough time for Sasuke to activate his Makingo Sharingan and place Knuckles in one of his Gensprit arts, knowing that Knuckles had no chance of escaping because he was ignorant of Gensprit arts. Sasuke kept the Gensprit art going, knowing he'd win the fight because of the illusion cast upon Knuckles. Knuckles lay on the ground defeated from the effect of the Gensprit art. Sasuke thinking that he'd one turn to go and find his teammates, but just then, as if he'd only taken moderate damage, Knuckles stood up. He was temporarily out of breath from what he had just withstood, but it wouldn't be long before he had the strength to fight again. Having heard Knuckles struggle to get up, Sasuke turned to see his opponent undefeated, which meant the fight wasn't his yet. Sasuke could only comprehend that Knuckles' great strength is what prevented him from being completely defeated by the illusion. He could also tell that his Gensprit art had had more effect on Knuckles than any of his previous attacks, but he knew that he couldn't rely on it to win. Even though using the Makingo Sharingan didn't damage Sasuke's eyes like it used to, he'd only be able to use it so many times before he ran out of core energy. This told Sasuke that if he was going to win, he'd have to finish Knuckles off while he was stuck in the illusion. In the meantime, he would have to hold Knuckles off until he had the chance to use the attack again. Mockingly, "You'll have to do better than that." Knuckles managed to stand up and regain his strength. "That might be the case, but I can tell that my most recent attack seriously injured your body." Sasuke forewarned, "I know that trapping you in my illusions won't be enough to kill you, but I swear that the next time I do it, I'll finish you before you have a chance to recover." Knuckles declared, "I won't give you the chance to put me in those illusions. I'll finish you off before you get the chance," knowing that he would be destroyed if he were discovered in another instance of Genspert art. Sasuke cheered, "Well then come and get me," knowing that Knuckles would attack without hesitation once more. Knuckles said, "It's on now," as he prepared to charge. Sasuke jumped into the air once again and shot another fireball spirit art from his mouth. Knuckles was able to easily dodge Sasuke's fireball spirit art and was about to charge at Sasuke, but then remembered something that Tails had told him previously. He remembered that while the three of them were searching for Team 7, Tails had told Knuckles and Sonic that they were going to have to be more careful with the opponents they were facing, as they knew nothing about them or their battle techniques. So, Knuckles realized that if he didn't want to be caught in another one of Sasuke's illusions, he would have to think more carefully about how he was going to initiate his next attack. He remembered seeing Sasuke's eyes change to red when he was throwing punches at Sasuke. He could also see that Sasuke was using the same eyes right now, while using his fireball technique. This made Knuckles wonder if the red eyes that Sasuke was using right now were helping him better predict his moves, and if so, Sasuke would know exactly when to cast another illusion on him. Knuckles also needed to figure out how Sasuke casted the illusion on him in the first place. He remembered seeing Sasuke's eyes change again, just before he was caught in the illusion. He knew it was a long shot, but Knuckles had a feeling that if he managed to close his eyes just before he attacked, he might be unaffected by Sasuke's attack. So not fighting with anger and strength like he usually did, he waited for Sasuke to fire his next attack. Sasuke was aware that he would eventually run out of core energy, so he knew that he had enough to keep firing, while Knuckles ran towards him, meaning that he could use the same strategy to catch Knuckles in another Genspert art and finish him off. However, it struck him as strange that Knuckles was now just standing in front of him, as if he was waiting for Sasuke to attack again, as if Knuckles had actually come up with a plan for his next attack. Despite this, Sasuke was unconcerned because of the level of intelligence Knuckles had been displaying during their battle, but just in case Knuckles had figured out a way to counter his attack, Sasuke chose to taunt him to ensure he would attack without hesitation. "What's wrong, furball? Scared to attack me again? 'Cause I'll capture you in my Genspert art," laughed Sasuke. Knuckles screamed, "Not a chance, I'm not afraid of you, and I will beat you in order to help my friends," in the hopes that Sasuke would resume firing. "What's your name, Knuckles?" "Hey, how about I make you a deal?" Sasuke inquired. "That depends on what the deal is," Knuckles asserted. "If you give up now, I'll spare your life," Sasuke said. "Will you allow my buddies and I to attempt to find a route home in an attempt to boost his optimism?" Knuckles asked. "Of course not, first you'll have to be taken back to the village and be interrogated," said Sasuke. "How much time will it take?" Knuckles inquired. "About 1 week minimal," Sasuke replied. Knuckles remarked, "Then I decline, me and my friends don't have that much time to find our way home," as he readied himself to launch another assault. "Well, that decision will be your downfall," Sasuke said, getting ready to battle some more. "What have we done to convince you that we are your enemy, and why do you insist on battling us?" Knuckles inquired. "The fact alone that you aren't cooperating with us and resisting is more than enough for us to believe that you're our enemies," replied Sasuke. Knuckles said, "Then I'm sorry it has to end this way, but I'm not going to let you win," knowing that he could have a chance to win if he had given his plan more careful thought. Knowing that the fight would be his once Knuckles attacked, Sasuke claimed, "Don't fool yourself, I'm more than powerful enough to beat you." "Then prove it," Knuckles said in jest. "I shall," Sasuke replied, leaping back into the air and preparing to strike. Sasuke once again did the hand signals for Fireball Spirit Art and started firing fireballs at Knuckles. Knuckles, as always, was able to easily dodge the fireballs, and after dodging the third one jumped into the air to attempt attacking Sasuke a second time. As always, Sasuke was prepared for Knuckles' attack and activated his Makingo Sharingan while Knuckles was flying towards him. However, as Knuckles had planned, he closed his eyes just before Sasuke had activated his Sharingan and was unaffected by his illusion. Sasuke was able to see that Knuckles had been unaffected by his Genspert art and knew that if he didn't move, he'd be finished. Thankfully, Sasuke was able to quickly move out of the way of Knuckles' attack, and Knuckles hit the ground instead of hitting his opponent. Sasuke was impressed by Knuckles' quick thinking, but knew that Knuckles would have to be smarter than that if he hoped to win this fight. Sasuke landed on the ground to congratulate his opponent. Knuckles opened his eyes and turned to face his opponent. "Not bad, furball. I'm amazed you managed to figure out how to escape my Genspert art, but that won't be enough to defeat me. I know you can't fight me with your eyes closed, which means once I activate my Jinjutsu again, I can easily win this fight, said Sasuke. How? Knuckles inquired. I'll just keep attacking you while you can't see, Sasuke replied. How can attacking me help you win when you already know that your blows are ineffective against me? Knuckles inquired. Sasuke pulled out his sword and stated, simple, I've played with you long enough, and now I'm getting serious. What are you gonna do with that thing? It still won't have much effect against me, said Knuckles. Sasuke muttered, this might not, but this will, Chidori blade, and then all of a sudden, lightning encircled his entire sword. Knuckles knew this wasn't good. He didn't know what to do next. If he kept his eyes open, he would be caught in the illusion and be finished. On the other hand, if he kept his eyes closed, Sasuke would easily be able to attack him with his Chidori blade. Knuckles then wondered if he could use his other senses to counter Sasuke's attacks. He knew it was a long shot, and he knew that he didn't have any time to plan either, so he'd have to improvise. Knuckles saw Sasuke activate his Sharingan and close his eyes to ensure that he wouldn't get caught in the illusion. Knuckles listened carefully and could hear Sasuke running towards him. This gave Knuckles an idea of trying to make Sasuke lose hit footing, which he was able to figure out would be a simple task. He would just need to punch the ground as hard as he could, and Sasuke should lose his footing, giving him the chance to attack. Once Knuckles could hear that Sasuke wasn't very far away, he hit the ground as hard as he could with his fist. As Knuckles predicted, the force of his punch caused the ground to shake beneath him, causing Sasuke to lose hit footing. Knuckles opened his eyes to see that Sasuke had lost his concentration on both his Sharingan and his Chidori blade, making it the most ideal time for him to attack. Knuckles jumped and charged at Sasuke, intending to finally take him out, but Sasuke just managed to regain his footing and avoid his attack. The ground shook from the force of Knuckles' punch, but Sasuke jumped far enough away to ensure that he didn't lose his footing again. Knuckles was running low on core energy, so he knew that if he tried the Chidori blade and Makingo Sharingan again, he would be wasting core energy, so he decided that his next strike would be the last. Knuckles was getting frustrated at his constant failures, so he didn't care what happened next. He was going to charge at Sasuke with full force on his next attack. As he made the hand signals for his Chidori assault, Sasuke declared, that's it, I'm ending this right now. Same here, I'm finishing you off, Knuckles went back. Sasuke and Knuckles suddenly charged at each other, with Sasuke creating a ball of lightning in his hand, and Knuckles putting all of his strength into a single final punch. They collided with each other, with Sasuke hitting Knuckles with his Chidori and Knuckles hitting Sasuke full force with his powerful punch, sending them flying backwards. Sasuke managed to get up, but he was coughing blood and was barely able to breathe. Knuckles had broken all of Sasuke's ribs, pressing against his lungs, and he had severely damaged many of his organs. Knuckles, on the other hand, was unconscious from the weight of Sasuke's attack, and he was unable to get up, knowing he had won. Sasuke remarked, I knew I could win, now to finish you off for good, as he began to draw his sword once more. The voice said, leave Knuckles alone, as it approached Sasuke. When Sasuke turned, he saw Tails speeding toward him. Sasuke couldn't believe what he was seeing. Did Tails' presence mean that he had defeated Sakura? No, he thought. Avoid Knuckles at all costs, Tails said, drawing his energy ball arm cannon. What happened to Sakura, and why are you here? Sasuke inquired. Tails became enraged and screamed, I defeated her, and I'll repeat what I said, get away from Knuckles. You're too late, Fox, even if he survived your friend is as good as dead, said Sasuke. Tails shouted, no, and aimed his energy ball arm cannon at Sasuke. Sasuke was too weak to dodge Tails' attack, and was hit by the energy ball at full force. Sasuke hit the ground undefeated by Knuckles, but defeated by Tails. Tails went over to see if Sasuke was defeated. He could tell that like Sakura before, Sasuke wasn't going anywhere anytime soon. Tails then went over to see if Knuckles was alive. He was badly hurt, but Tails could tell that he was still breathing, and that if he worked quickly, he should be able to save him. Tails got out his meaty bot, placed it on Knuckles and turned it on. He knew that healing Knuckles would take a while, but if Tails didn't heal Knuckles now he would lose a close friend, and he didn't want that. While waiting for Knuckles to heal, Tails had a huge explosion occur, not far from where he and Knuckles were. Tails could only guess that that explosion was where Sonic was fighting his opponent. This told Tails that as soon as Knuckles was healed, they would have to find Sonic as quickly as they could. Because Tails had a feeling that the opponents that Knuckles and him had just faced were far overpowered by the opponent that Sonic was facing at that very moment. Tails wanted to help Sonic because he knew that if Knuckles and him didn't help, Tails would not only lose his best friend, but the closest thing he had to a brother. All Sonic could do was watch, as he saw his teammates and closest friends be separated from him, making them have to fight their battles separately and not as a team. Naruto had made enough clones that Sonic was currently unable to move with them holding him down. Sonic knew he would have to fight and beat Naruto if he had any hopes in helping his friends. Sonic had a feeling this wouldn't be easy, as he was probably faced against the strongest member of Team 7, but he couldn't let this stop him, as he knew he held their only hope of returning home the Chaos Emeralds. Sonic wondered if he should just use them now, so he could end the fight quickly, but he knew that was a bad idea, because if he used the Chaos Emeralds now, they might run out of power before they had a chance to return home. This told Sonic that he would have to win this fight with his speed, and only use the emeralds if he was desperate. If he could just get his footing right, he knew he could break free of the clone's hold on him. So he decided to see if he could trick Naruto into losing his concentration. "Do you really think that creating multiple versions of yourself will be enough to hold me down?" laughed Sonic. "Of course, and if it only takes that many to hold you down, I should be able to easily beat you, because the amount I just created are only a fraction of how many I can create," said Naruto. "Well, trust me, with my speed I can easily break this hold, so don't think I'm done for yet," said Sonic. "You obviously don't know who you're messing with, Furball. I am ninja who saved the world from its greatest destruction. In fact, some consider me the greatest ninja who ever lived," said Naruto. "So, you prevented the planet from being destroyed?" Sonic asked, seeming taken aback. Naruto answered, "That's right, so are you willing to give up now?" "Not yet. Tell me how many times you have saved the planet," Sonic inquired, sounding intrigued. "Only a few times, but still this world would be gone if it wasn't for me," said Naruto. "PFFT, pathetic," Sonic sneered. "What is pitiful about that?" angrily, Naruto asked. "I've saved my world like 20 times, not just that, I've saved different dimensions, and the whole space-time continuum. Now that's impressive," said Sonic with a grin. "Oh, just because you've saved your world more times, you're superior to me?" Naruto inquired. "Probably. It also proves that you three aren't fighting bad guys," said Sonic. Naruto remarked, "Well, you know what I think." "What?" Sonic answered. "I believe you made up that narrative, so you'll cheat on us and murder us if we allow you to go free." "What are your thoughts about that?" Naruto inquired. "I suppose you're more foolish than I am if that's what you think. And people are upset with me because I act without thinking," Sonic said. "I am aware that you are attempting to irritate me, but I assure you that it will not succeed. After Sasuke and Sakura beat your two buddies, this is what will happen. You will be taken to the Leaf Village, where you will be detained and questioned," Naruto said. "I apologize, but that is not going to happen. My friends and I have just one day to figure out how to get home, and we have been unable to do so because of our argument with you three. Additionally, don't assume that Knuckles and Tails will be defeated so quickly. Believe me when I say that they won't allow your buddies beat them, since Tails is the brightest, and Knuckles is the strongest person I know. Just as I won't allow you to defeat me," Sonic clarified. "And how do you plan to beat me? I've got you completely restrained," said Naruto. Sonic replied, "Not completely," and like this, as he prepared to break free. A few of the clone's hands were easily removed from Sonic's legs, and he began kicking them as quickly as he could. Soon after, Sonic was free of the rest of the clone's grasp, and he ran as fast as he could to get away from the herd of clones, destroying a few in the process. Naruto sensed that the real battle was about to start, and that he would need to use all of his physical and mental strength, if he even had any chance of defeating his opponent, the Blue Hedgehog. Naruto decided to try a head-on attack, to see if he could win by using his superior numbers and fighting skills. So Naruto commanded all of his clones to attack Sonic at full force. They might have had superior numbers, but he just wasn't quick enough to hit Sonic with any of his attacks. Using his far superior speed, Sonic managed to dodge all of the attacks that Naruto threw at him. Eventually Sonic got tired of dodging Naruto's attacks, so he used his spin dash attack, and started taking out all of Naruto's clones, as if they were Egoi's robots. Sonic jumped and attacked each clone, hoping that if he took them all out, he would find the original, and be able to finish him quickly. The real Naruto could see that Sonic was getting really close to him with his spin attack, and knew that if Sonic managed to hit him, all of his clones would disappear. Naruto knew he'd have to run away so he could be out of the line of fire, and have a chance to create more clones. So while Naruto thought that Sonic couldn't see him, he started running away from the head of clones that were quickly being destroyed. Unbeknownst to Naruto, Sonic saw him flee from the group of clones that he was destroying. He thought it was highly suspicious that one of the clones was fleeing from the main group, so he assumed that Naruto was the real one. Using his speed, Sonic was able to quickly escape from the other clones, jumping into the air and kicking Naruto in the back. He thought he had hit the real Naruto, but then the clone vanished in a cloud of smoke and changed into a log, indicating that this wasn't the case. Sonic then turned back to the clones he had left behind him, and sure enough, they were all approaching him with kunai in their hands. Sonic knew he had plenty of time to get away from the clone's attack, but he needed to know which one was the real Naruto, so instead of fleeing, he kept running around them to make sure none of them could escape, and made one of his tornadoes. The clones were all caught in the tornado, and they were beginning to vanish, but he knew that if he continued, he would be able to find the real Naruto, who would also be open to attack. The clones vanished rather quickly, until there was only one left, and Sonic felt that it was the real one, but before he could attack, the last Naruto vanished as well, indicating that the real Naruto wasn't there at all. Sonic turned to search at Naruto and sarcastically said, "Where the hell did you go, you orange-suited chicken? Am I too much for you and you're running away?" "Far from it, I was just observing all of your abilities," said Naruto. The only thing that Sonic knew for sure was that it would take all of his speed to ensure that he would win the fight. He didn't care how much force Naruto threw at him. He was going to win this fight so he could help his friends and get home. Sonic turned and saw Naruto emerge from the trees. Sonic knew that talking was a waste of time, and that he was going to make sure that once the battle started, he'd end it as quickly as possible. As Sonic got ready to start again, he commented, "So you're tougher than I thought, but I haven't even gotten serious yet." "Neither have I, but let me just say if that is all you've got, you and your friends don't stand a chance against us," said Naruto. Sonic defended his pals by saying, "I wouldn't be so sure, but I think that you should be more conserving about your friends, because mine never give up. I'll grant that you're tough for rats of dwarf stature, but Sasuke and I are the greatest ninjas in the Leaf Village, so we're by far the strongest team," Naruto clarified. "Well, if that's the case, I don't think I should be conserved for my friends at all," Sonic said with assurance. "Why is that?" Naruto inquired. "Because where I'm from, I'm the fastest in the world, Knuckles is the strongest, and Tails is the smartest, and considering they can keep up with me in terms of speed, they're amongst the fastest guys I know, so I know they'll be alright," said Sonic. "That's really rather amazing, but I suppose I should be ashamed because Sasuke and I have actually outperformed every ninja in the world, so we're not just the strongest in our village, we're the strongest in the entire world," Naruto clarified. "Well, even so, I wouldn't be surprised if Knuckles and Tails have already defeated your two friends, but that won't stop me from defeating you as quickly as I can, and going to help them out," said Sonic. "Likewise, but I warn you I'm much stronger than my two friends, and I'm about to make this fight much harder for you," said Naruto. "Bring it on, I haven't even reached my top speed, and I have many more tricks left," said Sonic. "If you insist," Naruto responded, making a clone that looked like a net to him. Sonic had no idea what Naruto was up to, but as soon as the clone was created, he placed both of his hands on a hand that the real Naruto had put out to the side. The next thing he knew, a blue ball of swirling energy known as the Rasen appeared in Naruto's hand. Sonic decided to attack first, knowing that if Naruto tried to attack, he would likely be in a lot of trouble if he didn't dodge it. Before Naruto had a chance to attack, Sonic charged, leaped, and executed his spin attack. Fortunately for Naruto, he was able to jump just in time, so he could avoid the attack. Sonic didn't realize that this was part of Naruto's plan until he hit the ground from his attack, at which point Naruto began to fall with his Rasengan. Sonic saw Naruto fall and swiftly leaped out of the way before Naruto landed. Sonic believed he was safe and that he would be able to continue avoiding the attacks, but after witnessing what happened next, he realized that he was far from safe. When Naruto hit the ground, he caused a huge explosion that sent dust flying everywhere, and for a while he was unable to see anything, but the dust soon cleared, and he could see that he was still in grave danger, because the small ball of energy in his hand had created a huge crater in the ground, in which he was standing unharmed. If he allowed even one of those attacks to hit him, he would be killed. Sonic knew that he was fast enough to avoid the attacks, so he would just need to wait for the right opportunity to attack. "Not a bad attack, but I've seen worse," Sonic remarked, attempting to project courage in the face of the circumstance. "That's still nothing, I was just giving a demonstration of what the Rasengan can really do," said Naruto. "So it gets worse?" A little alarmed by the circumstances, Sonic asked. "Oh, it gets much, much worse, but if it's for the Leaf Village I'll do anything to protect it," said Naruto. "What makes it worse?" In an attempt to learn more about the circumstances, Sonic inquired. Naruto shouted, "Like this," multi-shadow clone spirit art, and several more clones materialized. Sonic was unaware of what was going on, but he soon discovered that half of the clones had placed their hands over both of the other clones' outstretched hands, indicating that several of the clones each had two Rasengans. Knowing that he was in trouble now and that he would need to make his timing nearly flawless, if he had any chance of surviving Naruto's next attack, he started running in the opposite direction, and Naruto's clones pursued. Sonic was easily able to outrun Naruto's clones, but they followed. Sonic knew that this wouldn't be enough to defeat Naruto. If he wanted to win, he would have to go on the offensive. Sonic realized that it was his only chance, so he turned around and began the attack. Knowing that he would need to get close to his top speed in order to move fast enough that Naruto couldn't follow, Sonic charged at Naruto, getting close enough to the clones that he could practically see all of Naruto's attacks before they even happened. Fortunately for Sonic, none of the clones were side by side, so he was able to attack each one of them individually, kicking the ones that were wide open in the stomach, and dodging the ones that weren't, kicking them in the head. Sonic had barely time to worry about that when he managed to get past all of the clones that were coming at him, and since they all vanished, he knew that none of them were the real Naruto. Before long, he noticed that the remaining Narutos were approaching him with Rasengans in their hands, but this time they weren't coming one at a time. Instead, they were coming side by side, which meant that Sonic couldn't use the same strategy he just used. Nevertheless, the manner in which the remaining Narutos were attacking gave Sonic another idea. If he couldn't attack by destroying them individually, he'd do it all at once, and the best way to do that was creating another tornado. In order to ensure that Naruto couldn't follow his attacks, Sonic ran at his maximum speed once more. He ran in a large enough circle around the clones to ensure that he could trap all of them. As Sonic was creating the tornado, he started running faster with each circle to ensure that no clones could escape. After all of the Naruto clones that were still trapped in the tornado were gone, Sonic wasted no time in using the tornado's power to destroy the clones, which were rapidly vanishing in puffs of smoke. Sonic thought that none of these Narutos would be the real one, but after all of the clone puffs of smoke vanished, only one remained, and he saw that the power of the tornado was hurting the remaining Naruto, so he decided that the remaining Naruto in the tornado must be the real one. Sonic wasn't going to let the real Naruto escape, so he jumped into the tornado and began moving toward the remaining Naruto. As he was closing in on him quickly, he prepared one leg to kick him with all of his might, and Naruto braced himself because he knew he was about to be in a world of pain. In contrast, Sonic landed without any injuries and was ready to continue. Naruto was impressed that this blue hedgehog had managed to counteract both of his signature techniques with his speed alone, telling him that he would have to take this battle to the next level if he even had a chance of winning, because he felt that Sonic had yet to show his full speed. Sonic timed his kick perfectly and hit Naruto right on target, sending him flying out of the tornado as quickly as he could, since the wind pressure was stopping without him running around. However, Sonic was still prepared to fight at full strength, in case Naruto surprised him. Sonic was excited because he knew he could defeat him if what Naruto had shown was his full power. Naruto chose to congratulate Sonic on reaching this point, but he was playing and ready to take the fight to a new level. I've got to admit, Furball, I'm impressed you've lasted this long, but just so you know I'm done with taking it easy on you, replied Naruto with seriousness. I told you my name is Sonic, and if you're done going easy then, so am I, because believe me when I say I still haven't shown you my full speed, said Sonic. Well, I promise, what I'm about to show you will easily be able to counteract your speed, Sonic remarked as he got ready to boost his strength and power, using his sense-spread art skills. I highly doubt that. In fact, I'll tell you how quickly I can run. Knowing that Naruto would be utterly stunned by that speed, Sonic boastfully declared, my top speed exceeds the speed of sound. Since Naruto wasn't sure if he was that fast, he knew that he had likely only fought a handful of individuals who even approached that speed. What, no way, he murmured, knowing that he would have to give it his all if he had any hope of fighting anything that could transcend the speed of sound. So, do you know now why you should just give up, before you get hurt, said Sonic. No, I never give up, and I don't care how fast you can run. I know that I have more than enough power to defeat you 3 times over, and just so you know I never go back on my word, replied Naruto with rage. And how exactly do you intend to accomplish that? Based on your current performance, I believe my skills clearly surpass yours, Sonic inquired. Naruto made a strange hand gesture and closed his eyes. I'm so glad you asked, but why should I tell you when I can just show you, he replied. When Naruto opened his eyes, Sonic noticed that they had become much more toad-like. Sonic was unable to understand the significance of this, but he had a bad feeling that his opponent had simply become much more powerful than before, which was bad news for him. The next thing Sonic knew was that Naruto's eyes and the surrounding area had turned orange. Are you afraid of toad eyes, or what? Naruto asked haughtily. Sonic tried to seem brave by responding, not at all. How's turning yourself into a toad going to affect the outcome of this fight? But the sight of Naruto's eyes now made him uneasy. Blue Hedgehog, I assure you that my skills have significantly improved since then, smiling, Naruto explained. Sonic stated, well, let's see if your abilities can even match my speed, as he got ready to make another charge. Bring it on, Naruto replied, getting ready to block his assault. Sonic responded, I will, and he took off. In addition to blocking Sonic's attack, Naruto also managed to withhold an attack that should have sent Sonic flying, which must have been related to the strange transformation his eyes had undergone. Sonic charged at Naruto with great speed, jumped, and went to kick him square in the face. However, Naruto was better prepared for Sonic's attack this time, timing his attack just right, and blocked Sonic's kick with one of his hands. Sonic was shocked, jumping backwards and landing on the ground a few meters away. Surprise, Hedgehog, I told you I wasn't going too easy on you anymore, Naruto said gravely. How the heck did you withhold that attack? That should have sent you flying, said Sonic. Did you truly believe that these toad eyes were only decorative? A little taken aback, Naruto asked. In an attempt to appear brave, Sonic said, only if you're trying to look stupid. Excuse me, I'll have you know, this ability is called sense-spread art, and it gives me strength that you can't even begin to imagine, said Naruto in a rage. The talking toad, who did you learn it from? Sarcastically, Sonic asked. Yes, actually, and with this ability that he taught me, I know I can beat you, Naruto said, growing increasingly irritated. Wow, simply wow. Sonic said, growing more serious about the situation. Well, don't think you can beat me just because you've increased your strength and power a little. Oh, believe me, my abilities haven't just increased a little, they increased hugely, replied Naruto. Well, considering you couldn't think of a better word to say than hugely, I'd say it hasn't increased your brain power, laughed Sonic. Naruto, being increasingly irritated, exclaimed, that's it, you little runt, I'm ending this. Then you'll have to keep up with me, because I'm about to show you the true limits of my speed, Sonic said. Sonic charged again, knowing that he'd have to put all of his power and speed into his attacks, if he had any chance of defeating Naruto and his Senjutsu. Sonic decided to see just how strong Naruto was before he tried anything dangerous. Sonic went at the same speed he was going at before and attacked Naruto with another kick. Like before, Naruto was able to block the kick and wasn't even faced by the impact. Instead of jumping back like he did the last time, he landed on the ground crouching, hoping Naruto would attack back. Just like he'd hoped, Naruto did try to counter-attack with a punch. Sonic carefully placed his time and dodged as quickly as he could, and put some distance between himself and Naruto. Just as Sonic had planned, Naruto punched the ground with his immense strength. When Naruto's fists made contact with the ground, he caused a relatively large hole in the area around him. The ground started shaking with the hole which Naruto had caused in the ground. Thankfully, Sonic managed to keep his footing, but still he was quite phased from an attack that hadn't even made contact with him. Now that he had a better sense of how strong his opponent had grown, Sonic continued to hope that he might still have a chance to win, as long as he had the superior speed. Naruto's physical strength was likely on par with or perhaps greater than Knuckles'. Sonic remarked, "Not bad, I wasn't expecting your strength to increase that much," while he was still somewhat in awe of Naruto's power. "So, are you prepared to give up right now?" Naruto inquired. "I never give up," Sonic replied. When Naruto responded, "Your funeral then," he charged. Sonic's superior speed allowed him to easily avoid the next few punches and kicks that Naruto threw at him. He knew that if he didn't avoid getting hit, he would be doomed. He had a feeling that throwing any punches or kicks was pointless at this point, and that he would have to try a different tactic. He felt that using the spin dash, which was his most effective tactic at the moment, was his best option because it required some distance before he could try it. So he fled from Naruto as soon as he could. When Sonic felt he was far enough away, he ran at Naruto once more, but this time he jumped and did a spin dash. Unfortunately, his attack was still insufficient to harm Naruto, because he had caught Sonic in his hands before his spikes reached his body, so Naruto threw the Hedgehog away from him. Sonic managed to land on his feet, but because of Naruto's great strength, he landed quite a distance away. For a moment, Sonic thought that even his spin dash technique was ineffective, but then he noticed something that gave him an idea. The dirt beneath Naruto's feet appeared as though he had been dragged across it slightly. This made Sonic realize that if he increased his speed enough and attacked Naruto with another spin attack, he might actually be able to do some damage, but he would need much more distance and speed. Since he needed a lot of distance to do this, Sonic ran a good distance away. Then, he charged at Naruto again, but this time he went as fast as he could, breaking the sound barrier. Sonic was coming at Naruto so quickly that, had he not seen the dust, he wouldn't have even realized he was coming. Sonic timed his attack, jumping and doing his spin dash just right. Unfortunately for Naruto, he was approaching too quickly for him to see the Hedgehog coming. Sonic struck Naruto head-on, sending the ninja flying, completely overwhelming his strength with speed. Naruto was unharmed, but he was a little taken aback by the Hedgehog's attack, and couldn't believe that, despite his greatly increased strength, he had been pushed back by the force of Sonic's attack. When he got back up, he noticed that Sonic wasn't standing too far away from him, and he was impressed and decided to congratulate Sonic. "Not bad, you actually hurt me, I'm impressed," replied Naruto. "Well, just so you know, that's only a taste of what I'm going to do to you, if you don't give up," said Sonic. "Bring it on, I'm ready for you now," Sonic remarked as he assumed a combat stance. Sonic responded, "Well, see," and rushed at Naruto once more. Since Sonic wasn't running at full speed, Naruto was able to see him and was ready for his next attack. Rather than performing another spin dash, as Naruto had anticipated, the Hedgehog leaped over him and landed on the opposite side of him. When Sonic's feet hit the ground again, he began running in that direction, giving him enough distance to reach his full speed. Naruto looked behind him to see what Sonic was doing, but was only fast enough to see the dust that Sonic had left behind from his speed. Thinking that Sonic would attack from a different area to trick him, Naruto began looking around to see if Sonic would attack from a different angle. Sonic, on the other hand, had no intention of attacking from a different angle, so he turned around and prepared to run once he was far enough away. Sonic didn't even change his direction. Instead, he simply ran back at his maximum speed in the direction he had come from. Soon after, Sonic saw Naruto again and realized that he wasn't even looking in the direction the Hedgehog was coming from, leaving him vulnerable to a physical attack. Sonic wasted no time in starting his next attack, jumping and hitting Naruto with a second spin attack at full speed, hitting the ninja with such force that he flew 100 meters. In order to prevent Naruto from getting up and counter-attacking, Sonic made sure he didn't waste any time in making his next attack. He ran as fast as he could away from Naruto until he was far enough away, then turned around and started his next attack. Sonic ran at Naruto, who was just getting up from Sonic's previous attack, and instead of running ahead to attack again, he landed on the ground where he'd attacked Naruto, and waited for him to get up again. Naruto had taken a lot of damage from Sonic's last 3 attacks, but he was able to avoid serious injury, thanks to the strength from his Senspur dart. "Do you have anything else?" A little taken aback by Sonic's assaults, Naruto asked. "Not even close, and if you ask me, this just proves that no matter how strong you get, you can't beat my speed," said Sonic. Yeah, well those attacks won't be enough to defeat me. You haven't even broken one of my bones yet, said Naruto with rage. Well just so you know I can keep this up for hours, so I'll just keep attacking you until you can't get up again, laughed Sonic. That was bad news for Naruto because if Sonic could attack for hours on end, he would eventually win. Since his Sensprit art wouldn't last an hour and he wouldn't even have the strength to continue after losing the ability, Naruto realized that if he wanted to win without revealing his full strength, he would need to come up with a better plan. Naruto could see that Sonic's current strategy would only allow him to attack once every time he ran at him, so the best way to win was to create more of him, which was Naruto's specialty. Well if that's the case, I'll just have to make it harder for you, warned Naruto. How exactly do you intend to accomplish that? Sonic sneered. Like this shadow clone spirit art, Naruto remarked as he joined his fingers to make several duplicates of himself. Sonic didn't know what Naruto was trying to accomplish with this. He defeated this technique once, and he'd defeat them again. Sonic ran off in the opposite direction to do another attack, and once he was far enough away charged again at his top speed. While running towards them he saw that they had all huddled close together. Sonic didn't have time to worry about why they were doing that, so he just attacked the closest one to him and destroyed it in a puff of smoke. Sonic was about to land behind the clones, but before he could do anything, he was grabbed from behind by 4 of the Naruto clones, with one restraining an arm or leg each, and pinning him to the ground. Sonic tried to escape, but the strength of the Sensprit art clones was too much for even him. There were 2 Narutos left that stood over him and one of them said. One of the Narutos remarked, "Do you really think I'd fall for that again? The same trick won't work on me." Well, holding me down isn't going to defeat me, Sonic said, attempting to project confidence despite his immobility. Naruto answered, "Maybe not, but this is going to completely destroy you," and he and the other clone leaped back. Suddenly, Naruto and the other clone began to create another Rasengan, but this one was much larger. In fact, it was so large that Sonic knew he would die if he was hit by the attack. Knowing that he had to help his friends, who were now fighting opponents as fiercely as before, Sonic began vibrating his arms and legs as quickly as he could in the hopes of escaping. Soon after, the final 2 Narutos finished their next attack, which resulted in a huge ball of energy. After the Rasengan was finished, the 2 Narutos leaped into the air and headed towards Sonic and the other clones, using Knuckles and Tails. As Tails was tending to Knuckles, he noticed the explosion and realized that his best friend was in serious trouble. Tails told Knuckles not to talk so that he could heal properly, but Tails couldn't get rid of the feeling that he would lose his best friend if he didn't go to Sonic. Returning with Naruto and Sonic. Since the area where he had landed was entirely destroyed, Naruto, whose clones had vanished, thought he had won the war. He smiled, but then he heard something that startled him. "Not bad, I would have died if I wasn't as quick as I was," Sonic yelled, sounding more irate than normal. Naruto turned and was astounded to see that the Hedgehog, who was now quite a distance away, had escaped his attack. "How are you still alive? I had you completely restrained, and that attack should have completely destroyed you," said Naruto. "Well, let's just say that I was able to break free from the clone's hold long enough to run away without stopping," Sonic clarified. "Clever, but you'll have to do better than that," Sonic replied. Naruto, who was now growing irritated, yelled, "Will you be finished with this, Shadow Clone Jutsu?" and 2 clones materialized next to him. Sonic folded his arms and sounded dissatisfied. "You tried that already, even I'm not stupid enough to fall for that again," he remarked. "Oh, you'll see," Naruto said. The next thing Sonic knew was that Naruto was generating another ball of energy, but this one was different from the others. It was white and had energy-based blades on the outside. It took longer than his previous attack, but he finished it quickly. Since Sonic didn't like the way Naruto's attack looked, he decided to attack him before he could use it, so he slid under it just before it hit him, and it missed him by a narrow margin. Sonic then leaped as high as he could and landed behind Naruto, turning just in time to see the attack strike some trees, which resulted in an explosion larger than any of the ones Sonic had previously seen. Using Knuckles and Tails. When he heard and watched the second explosion, Tails was still tending to Knuckles, and he was even more motivated to rescue him because he knew Sonic was in peril now. Knuckles had woken up and was now strong enough to sit, much like Tails, who had witnessed the explosion. "What was that, in your opinion?" Knuckles inquired. "I don't know, but I bet whoever caused it is still fighting Sonic as we speak. I just hope he's okay," Tails was concerned. "Don't worry, Tails. Sonic is the only person I know who can withstand an explosion like that." "Speaking of surviving, what happened to the 2 of us that were engaged in combat?" Knuckles inquired. "I beat the female I was fighting, and I beat the guy you were fighting. In fact, he's lying down behind you," Tails clarified. "Good work and thanks for beating that guy before he killed me," Knuckles replied. "That's what friends are for, so don't worry about it." Tails turned off his meaty bot and said, "Well, that should do it." Knuckles exclaimed, "I feel great, seriously that bot never fails," as he stood up and stretched. Tails urged, "Come on, let's go help Sonic." Knuckles stated, "Alright, let's hope no more ninjas show up." Tails muttered, well, given the noise Sonic's making with his opponent, I wouldn't push our luck, and the two of them sped off in the direction the explosion had originated. Alongside Sonic and Naruto. Sonic was shocked that he had survived that. What he had just witnessed was unlike anything he had ever seen before. Naruto was equally shocked that Sonic had escaped his attack yet again, and that he was now nearly depleted of core energy from using his most potent attack, so Sonic thought the best thing he could do was to make fun of Naruto for once again failing to attack him. Ha, miss, Sonic sarcastically said. I can see that, Naruto remarked, growing irritated. I don't think I've ever met someone who wastes attacks like that, so I'm shocked that you just wasted two really strong attacks like that. Are you even trying? Sonic tauntingly inquired. That's it, Hedgehog, you've crossed my last nerve, I'm about to show you my true power, said Naruto. What would that be, then? Sonic inquired. Naruto stated, this, nine-tailed fox mode, as he entered that form. Sonic couldn't believe his eyes. It seemed that Naruto had suddenly changed into someone else entirely, and an orange energy surrounded his entire body. Sonic got the strangest feeling that what he had just experienced was little in comparison to what he had been dealing with the entire time. Sonic sounding expressed concern, saying, oh man, I should have just kept my mouth shut, given that the opponent he was facing was most likely the toughest he had ever encountered.